3 things that you need in order to access the Akashic Records. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what those 3 things are so that you are equipped and prepped for entering and accessing and exploring the Akashic Records. Now, I'm making one major assumption in this video is that you have a bit of a rough understanding about what the Akashic Records are, as I won't be covering that in great depth in this video. I haven't yet made a video about what the Akashic Records are, but when I do, I will link it in the top corner here. So you may want to go over and watch that video before you watch this video so you get a full context for the contents and the teaching within this video. The first thing you need in accessing the Akashic Records is an intention. And now there are 2 subsections to an intention. The first one being around questions. So asking an appropriate question within the Akashic Records so that you yield and receive an appropriate, useful and helpful answer in response to that question. Think about it. If you are asking unclear, vague, non-specific or limiting questions of anyone, you're likely to receive vague, non-specific and limiting answers. The same is true of your interaction with the Akashic Records. A part of the power of going into the Akashic Records and receiving the insight that you want is to be clear on why you're going there, what you want, and how best to communicate that intention clearly so that you get the output that you desire. A second part of having a clear intention is focus. Again, think about your relationship with the Akashic Records being similar to your relationship with another person. Imagine that you've asked a very clear, specific, open-ended question to someone, but instead of really listening and paying attention to them when they respond, you're watching TV, you're on your phone in one hand and writing something in the other. It doesn't matter how many times you ask the question and the other person answers you, while your attention is split between those 3 things, you're not bringing enough focus into the response for it to register meaningfully for you. So draw that same parallel over to the Akashic Records. You need that same focus as part of your intention if you want to receive meaningful, useful responses. So this means bringing enough of your consciousness to bear in receiving the answer so that you can hear it, listen, tune in, make sense of it and integrate it in a meaningful way so that you can then take appropriate action in response. The second thing that you need to access the Akashic Records is an empty mind. Now, this is similar to our previous subsection around focus, but it really does bear having its own separate section because it is that important. And there are certain aspects about how you need to show up and how you need to be that can even make it possible for you to have focus in the first place. So if your attention is outward on things other than receiving from your Akashic Records, you won't receive from your Akashic Records. If your focus is inward on several things, taking up focus, energy, attention, and general bandwidth, then you also won't receive from your Akashic Records. Or perhaps a better way to say it is that the Akashic Records is broadcasting to you your response, but you're not in the right frame of mind or state of being in order to receive what is being broadcast to you. So part of receiving from the Akashic Records is to have an empty mind for that answer to land. Think about this. The Akashic Records is, in a nutshell, the database of the entire universe. You are sending an inquiry into it, a bit like going to an online library catalog, doing a search and seeing what comes back. If you already have all your tabs open with hundreds of other searches you've done, if you've already maxed out your computer's capacity to even load another screen, you're going to keep hitting enter and wondering why nothing is coming up. It's going to be frustrating, possibly infuriating if it goes on long enough, but that won't change the fact that nothing is going to load. Imagine instead that you close all your tabs, you maybe reset your computer, open up a whole new blank screen, no tasks running in the background, your search inquiry is no longer exhausted before it even starts, but it's fresh, clear, empty, and ready. This is how your mind needs to be before it hits execute on its search function within the Akashic Records. So there's actually space to receive from it. No conflicting intentions, no other inquiries running in the background. As blank a canvas as you can create inside yourself, the more will be able to load on your inner screen from the Akashic Records for you to interact with, inspect, interpret, and do something with. Before we go on to the next thing you need in order to access the Akashic Records, if you're feeling really called and piqued in your interest around the Akashic Records, then I recommend that you check out the description box because I've got a free guide for you to download and it's called How to Align with Your Path and Purpose Through the Akashic Records. So if all of this is speaking to you already, if you're really feeling interested and you're really curious as to how the Akashic Records can support you going forward, check out that description and download that guide because I really think it will speak to you if already everything that I'm sharing here is already getting you curious and interested around the Akashic Records. Okay, on to the next thing that you need in order to access the Akashic Records, and that is belief that you can do it. So let's say that you've totally emptied out your mind, you've crafted this really rich, thoughtful, engaging, super specific, clear question that you're excited to ask within the Akashic Records, and you've really brought your focus and attention to bear into that question, into the moment, and into your focus within the Akashic Records. None of that is really going to matter if you simply don't believe that you can access the Akashic Records. And supplement to this, if you believe that the Akashic Records is a total load of nonsense and you don't even know why you're bothering to attempt it in the first place because it just seems completely ridiculous. So again, I come back to this thought that everything that applies and makes common sense in real life and is a way that you might interact in real life does tend to apply in your relationship with the Akashic Records. So let's use another example here to illustrate this. Imagine there is an athlete who is about to compete to win in a 100-meter race. He's trained, he's worked hard, he has a technique mastered, his muscles are strong, he understands the rules of how it all works, but at the beginning of the race he tells himself, I just can't do this. It's impossible for me to win this race. Or perhaps an abstract thought comes in and he tells himself, this track isn't even real. It's a figment of my imagination. Why would I attempt to run on it? That's ridiculous. It doesn't matter how much he's trained, how well prepared he is, it's fairly unlikely that he's going to win the race. In fact, with his mind persuading him of thoughts like this, he might not even start running at all. On an energetic level, if you're feeling that conflict before you're actually attempting to engage in the Akashic Records, you'll really want to resolve that before, or at least as you're practicing engaging with the Akashic Records. Two of the best ways that I've found to resolve this conflict within you is to say to yourself, you know what, this might all be complete nonsense, but I'm going to engage with it anyway. So you're really speaking to the part of you that is wanting validity in its feeling that this is complete nonsense. So you're agreeing with it. And then you're saying, you know, it's nonsense. And I agree with you. And you know what, let's go anyway. Let's see what we can find. Let's be curious and explore and go further and just play with it anyway. The second way is to tell yourself, you know what, I can't prove this either way. I may be engaging with the Akashic Records and it is complete nonsense, or I may be engaging with the Akashic Records and it isn't complete nonsense. Either one of those models is completely unprovable because there's nothing in your subjective experience of the Akashic Records that can ever be provable. So you're essentially framing it from the perspective that that's a pointless barrier to your exploration of the Akashic Records because you'll never know either way. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, remember in the description below is that free download, how to align with your path and purpose through the Akashic Records. And I think you'd really love this video next. If you've enjoyed this video around the Akashic Records, this will probably be a really good next step for you. So I will see you over there.